welcome back to another episode of the Into 99 podcast, where we got 99 cards because Commander is number one. I am your Necromancer with all the answers, Necrozach, joined by my two lovely friends, Slothy and Dan. Gentlemen, how are you guys doing today?
Splendid. How are you?
I'm doing well. Dan, how are you?
Doing pretty good. Just love recording on the weekends with my buddies, so I'm excited to see the deck you brought today. It's today we're doing one of Zach's decks, so I'll just let everyone jump right into it. Hey everyone, hope everyone got through the week, and Zach, let us know what we're talking about today.
So we're taking a bit of a break from Kamigawa after Dan hurt my feelings last week with that fake group hug friend deck thing. I had to do something different. So we're heading back to Throne of Eldraine to do something I have avidly said I hate, which is a 5-color commander deck. Today we're talking about Kenrith the Return King. The reason why I decided to do this deck is it's been a long-running joke between me and Dan and Vincent about me doing a 5-color Reanimator deck. So with the love we got sent by Atomic Ashes over at Abyss Proxy shop, he sent me a care package of all the duels, all the fetches, and some commander staples. So I just thought it would be outright rude if I didn't use all of them in the same deck. So here we have Kenrith. As a gentle reminder, while I say this is a 5-color commander deck, it's really an Esper deck with a splash of Gruul. Keep that in mind. So for those who don't know, Kenrith the Return King is 4 and a white for a legendary creature, human noble, 5/5, and he has 5 activated abilities, which gives him his color identity of 5 colors. For a single red, all creatures gain trample and haste until end of turn. For 1 and a green, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. For 2 and a white, target player gains 5 life. For 3 and a blue, target player draws a card. And for 4 and a black, put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under its owner's control. While all these are good, probably only going to be using that last one. We'll get into it. So starting off, we'll just
before we go into the list, I just want to talk. I love Kenrith as a commander. I think that the utility of what you can do with Kenrith is so fun. I've built, I think I've 6 Kenrith decks together. One of my favorite decks is a Kenrith deck. So it's always really fun to see how people build Kenrith, because it's another commander, again, like Golos. I've been very vocal about disliking the removal of Golos because I liked that people had the on-ramp to 5 colors, and Kenrith is kind of the same thing. You can make so many different kinds of Kenrith decks. Like you said, you don't like 5-color decks. I'm sure your Kenrith decks are nothing like mine that we've done. But I've seen so many cool human tribal lists. Kenrith just has such a good toolbox, right?
Yeah, all these activated abilities are things that you're going to want. You can make this a group hug deck very easily. You can make it a political deck. I went, the Reanimator route because that's my favorite thing to do. And just on Kenrith alone, he's almost like a glorified enchantment. Not only can I, reanimate a creature, but I can pay a red that same turn and attack, and they get trample. That's really good.
Kenrith just has so many cool abilities. The most recent Kenrith that I put together was Will of the Council, Kenrith's Council, and that's a fun one to play. It's a lot of voting.
The one I'm most versed with is your infinite skip turns.
Yeah, my skip my turns deck is one of my decks I'm the most proud of. I think that one's really fun. But yeah, I love Kenrith as a commander. So when you said that you were going to build a 5-color Kenrith deck, I knew first off that it wasn't going to be a true 5-color deck. But I'm also, we've gone over some of my decks. Everyone knows how I build and stuff. Kenrith is my group hug commander too, and I want to see what Zach did with it, because I don't think it'll be like my Hinata deck. We'll just say that.
No, I'm outright doing some mean stuff, but not as mean as I could have been.
My Kenrith group hug deck, by the way, is a real group hug deck. You have to believe me.
You did say that about Hinata too, so
yeah.
Slothy, the voice of reason here.
They're basically both group hug decks. They function. They're
magic cards. So we'll start with ramp, and I guess once again I'm going to touch on this. If you're following along at home and you look at the Architect page, if you go to stats, you can clearly see this is an Esper deck with a splash of green and red. So it's Esper Gruul. That's how it's going to be referred to. And if you look at the cost, the estimated cost of this deck is $4,000 in US. Proxy everything. Go to our good buddy Atomic Ashes website, abyssproxyshop.com. Use our promo code IT99, get 10% off all your orders. And guess what? you can play the same exact deck for 1% of what it's actually going for on here.
Average CMC 4.12. That's thick.
Oh, buddy, we're doing thick boy stuff here. So
thick creatures, yeah.
Let's talk about how we're going to get some of these creatures out. We're looking at ramp first. It's your typical suite, but there's some cool stuff in here. So at the top, I'd be remiss if I didn't put Arcane Signet into any 5-color deck. 2, cost artifact, tap it, add 1 mana of any color of your commander's color identity. This is going to help us play any of our creatures, for their actual cost instead of just reanimating them. Or we're going to be able to use this to activate one of Kenrith's abilities, so we're not as, stuck on mana. Same thing for Birds of Paradise. Another, I think staple for 5-color decks. 1 green, 0/1 bird with flying, tapped, add 1 mana of any color. Also, just like you need these kind of mana fixing cards to make sure that we're going to, hit our colors as we need them, because you might not always be reanimating stuff right out of the grave. You want to be, but playing a card for, its actual cost, I guess, is okay sometimes.
Every color you go up above 2, these cards are like really, really good in anything that does the any mat or any color. Like Birds is good even in like a Selesnya deck, right? But as soon as you start adding that, like, as soon as you start adding like a Bant color or like you said, Esper colors, you're really getting like a lot more value out of those. And yeah, the fast ramp package of any color to use Kenrith's abilities is important.
Yeah, Salty, you want to take a couple?
Yeah, sure. So this next one is Cultivate. 2 and a green for a sorcery. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, reveal those cards. Put 1 onto the battlefield tapped and the other into your hand, and then shuffle.
So even though I am running all the fetches and all the duels, once again, thanks to Atomic Ashes, I am running some basics because you don't want to get locked out of the game by a Blood Moon or something like that. So just being able to go get our basics to make sure we're hitting our colors is also super important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just looking through your lands, you've got some good ones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the next one here is Dockside Extortionist, a card I'm very fond of. 1 and a red for a 1/2 Goblin Pirate. When Dockside Extortionist enters the battlefield, create X treasure tokens, where X is the number of artifacts and enchantments your opponents control. Very, very, very good card.
This is another thing, like, if we play it on curve, it's going to be fine because it'll help us get Kenrith out sooner, or maybe it's going to help us cast one of our, spells that we don't have the mana for, or not necessarily mana for, but the right mana for. And also reanimating this is just fine. Like, there's no point at like the game where this coming back out is going to be a problem for us.
Them reprinting Dockside shortly, like they keep saying they will be a good thing, because I think it's a powerful card for sure, but a lot of people I think are more upset that it's an out of budget powerful card.
And mine's a proxy. Like, mine's just a proxy.
Paying $75 for something from a commander deck that's not worth $75 is kind of crazy.
Yeah. I was lucky enough to get this pre-con when it came out. So
what was it in the Savine pre-con? Is that what it was from?
Yeah, pretty sure. Yeah.
I have the Savine deck. I love the Savine deck. It's not good. It's not.
No, I changed it to an Elfin deck.
Yeah,
there's some definite bangers in that deck, but yeah, it as a whole I think was a little lackluster.
I do dislike a bunch of the commander specific bomb cards like that, because I really wish that had been in Commander Legends. It's a bummer it wasn't.
Mm-hmm. But the next card on the list here isn't a bummer. It's Feyburrow Elder, 1 green and a white for a 0/0 Treefolk Druid with Vigilance. When it ETBs, you put a +1/+1 counter on it for each color among permanents you control, then you can tap it. And for each color among permanents you control, you add 1 mana of that color. This is probably my favorite mana dork, honestly. I play Abzan so hard. This goes in every deck that I play that I can.
Not counter. It gets 1/1 specifically.
Oh yeah, sorry, 1/1, not counter.
But yeah, Feyburrow is an amazing card.
Yeah, for this deck, it's going to essentially tap for 5 colors.
You have your normal Kodama's Reach. It's just basically another Cultivate. 2 and a green. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards. Reveal them. Put 1 onto the battlefield tapped, and the other into your hand. Then shuffle. Nature's Lore as well is good if you have the land types, your triomes, your dual lands, your shock lands. Nature's Lore, 1 in the green. Search your library for a forest card. Put that card on the battlefield. Then shuffle. Add 2 mana. Great card.
Next is a newer one. It's Ornithopter of Paradise. It's 2 for a 0/2 artifact creature Thopter with flying, and you can tap it to add 1 mana of any color. I've been putting this card in so many decks. I absolutely love this card.
One of the best budget pieces to come out in a long time.
For sure. Like two to give us an arcane signet essentially is insane.
Well, a 0/2 flying body as well on top of it. Like I just love it.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that you can get it out with a Soul Ring. That's a really good opening hand.
Yep. Then we have Rampant Growth, 1 in a green sorcery, search your library for a basic land card, put on the battlefield, tap and shuffle. Then I have Smothering Tithe. I typically don't play like Smothering Tithe and Rhystic Study, but once again, Atomic Ashes hooked me up, so of course I gotta play Smothering Tithe. But it's also just super good for this deck. 3 and a white for an enchantment. Whenever an opponent draws a card, that player may pay 2. If that player doesn't, you create a colorless treasure artifact token with tap, sack, add mana of any color to your mana pool. It's just fine. Once again, we're just fixing. It's a little bit higher on the curve for fixing, but it's one of those that'll stick around. And eventually, no one's going to want to pay it, or they're not going to want to pay it at all, and it'll just help us to do the things we want to do.
I never pay it. You can have your treasures.
Yeah, and then Soul Ring. We know Soul Ring. We love Soul Ring. So that's the boring stuff. Everything else is just going to be absolute fire and fun. So we're going to get in straight into card draw. This is where everything starts to get just like silly right off the bat. Slothy or Dan, one of you can take the first card because I'll just laugh if I try to read everything on it.
A Tempsis? I don't know. Yeah, I'm calling it a Tempsis. All seen. 3 triple blue for a Legendary Sphinx. 4/5 flying. 2 and a blue, tap, draw 2 cards, and discard a card. Whenever a Tempsis All Seen deals damage to an opponent, you may reveal your hand. If cards with at least 6 different converted mana costs are revealed, this way that player loses the game. Love it. That's hilarious.
I have a very, it's a little bit of a story time, but it's way too, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about it. I have a very like personal connection to this card. My buddy Fez and I, we went to a SCG Open in Columbus when M20 came out, and we did Two-Headed Giant. And we were playing against these people, and I was able to steal their Attempts off the battlefield with active treason, hit them, and then killed them with my hand that had my Attempts in hand. It was the last card I needed to have all 6 different CMCs. So it's just a lot of fun, but also like a lot of the almost all the drawing in this deck is going to be looting because we want to make sure our graveyards are filled with fatties at any given time. But it being a 4/5 flyer with an alt lose con, I guess, just to be able to like punch someone out of the game is super, super relevant and fun. This is the kind of card I like seeing.
Its ability is really good too with that, like you said, the loot, the pitch. Drawing 2 and discarding is generally your downside, but when you want to reanimate things and you want them in the grave, that's really good. I really like this card, and I've actually never built it. I've never actually seen someone play this one in person, and it's a good card.
Yeah, it's a card I always put into decks but end up taking out, but for this deck I felt like it was perfectly fine. Someone want to take the next one?
Yeah. So the next one is Faithful Mending. It's 1 white and a blue for an instant. You gain 2 life, draw 2 cards, and then discard 2 cards, and it's got flashback for 1, a white and a blue.
I love it. I wish it was white and black, but I'm okay with it being white and blue for this deck.
Yeah. You run your Faithless Looting, 1 red, draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards. Again, a good way to cycle through your deck, get your things into the actual graveyard with a flashback of 2 and a red. As well as Faithless Salvaging, 1 and a red, discard a card, then draw a card with rebound.
Then we have Frantic Search, 2 and a blue, instant, draw 2 cards, and discard 2 cards, and untap up to 3 lands.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
We have Obsessive Stitcher next. It's 1 blue and a black for a 0/3 human wizard. You can tap it to draw a card, then discard a card. Then you can pay 2 blue and a black, tap it, sacrifice Obsessive Stitcher, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. This on a creature is literally everything we want to do in this deck. We want to loot, we want to reanimate, and we can literally bring this back. Like this is just a powerhouse card in this deck, and it's very unassuming because it's just an uncommon.
Well, the other thing, too, is late game as well, when you have the mana sitting around, you can still give Kenrith's haste and start getting its ability right off the hop.
Yeah, we're just sculpting our hands and graveyard in this deck, so like we have a lot of looting effects.
You have Otherworldly Gaze. 1 blue for an instant. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. Put any number of them into your graveyard and the rest back on top in any order with flashback of 1 to blue. That's a great card.
Yeah, Otherworldly Gaze is sick. Like, I would normally play Opt just for the easy access of 1 blue to, opt and draw a card. But this is so much better in this deck. Even I think it's better because we get 2 uses out of it.
You have the Parrot cosplay card, yeah.
Yeah, we have Rhystic Study, 2 and a blue enchantment. Whenever opponent casts a spell, you may draw a card unless that player pays 1. Once again, normally I wouldn't run this card, but Atomic Ashes hooked me up, so now I have one.
Next up is River Kelpie. 3/3 beast for 3 and double blue. Whenever River Kelpie or another permanent enters the battlefield from a graveyard, draw a card. And whenever a player casts a spell from a graveyard, draw a card, and it's got Persist.
I love this card. I love this card so much. Normally, it's a little expensive, like CMC-wise, to play for certain decks, but I think for this deck, the amount of work it's going to do is just it's just too powerful not to add. With just Kenrith's ability alone, this is going to pay for itself in the form of drawing a card as soon as I play it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a creature with Persist.
You also run Timna.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Timna the Weaver, 1 white, 1 black. 2/2 human cleric with lifelink. At the beginning of your post-combat main phase, you may pay X life, where X is the number of opponents that were dealt combat damage this turn. If you do, draw X cards. And it has partner, but that doesn't matter in this deck. I love Timna.
Nah, it doesn't matter. Yeah, Timna's super sick. Like, even if it just sets on the battlefield, it's like a pseudo enchantment almost that lets us just draw cards as we bonk people.
The deck wouldn't be the deck if you didn't have the next one deck.
Village Rites, 1 black. Instead, as additional cost to cast a spell, sack a creature, draw 2 cards. It's my second favorite card in Magic, maybe third, because it's probably like Entomb, Phyrexian, Reclamation, and Village Rites. Reanimate's up there somewhere too, but Entomb is always the thing. All right, so that's our card draw section. There's some creatures in here, and you could probably move some stuff around, but this is my personal favorite way to draw cards in any kind of graveyard deck is just looting. Looting is so important for graveyard themed decks, and the fact that we can just sculpt our hand is super important. So next we'll get into the creature section. These obviously there's going to be more than 10 creatures, but these were just creatures I couldn't really put into the other categories that I created, as I always do. So these are just like
Big
creatures that do cool
that you
stuff.
want.
Yep. So at the top of the list, we have a Chroma Angel of Wrath, 5 triple white for a 6/6 legendary creature angel, flying, first strike, vigilance, trample, haste, protection from black and from red. Just mean. Like, it's going to smack someone, it's going to smack them hard.
Yeah, Chroma's big.
Yes. Someone take the next one.
Yeah, we got Kolfanor, the Last U, 3/7 Treefolk Shaman for 3, 1 white, 1 black, and 1 green. Vigilance and Reach. Whenever Kolfanor, the Last U, or another creature you control dies, return up to 1 other target creature card with lesser toughness from your graveyard to your hand.
I like that.
This card's awesome. The Vigilance and Reach is super good, but also just to be able to recycle from the grave. Maybe we have something small that we want to reuse. Maybe someone gets rid of our birds and we really need that mana, or our Fabral Elder, something silly. We can get it back. Also, it's a legendary creature, which is kind of important. We'll see later on.
Well, it also brings back the next card, your Craterhoof. 5 triple green for a 5/5 beast with haste. When it enters the battlefield, creatures you control gain trample and get XX till end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. It's a good game finisher.
Yeah, and also I really, even though I'm really pushing that this is an Esper deck with a splash of Gruul, I want all the colors to be represented on my creatures, and I could not remember that Craterhoof Behemoth was a card because I try not to play it as much as possible. But once again, I had a proxy from Atomic Ashes, and it just seemed like a good thing to throw in a deck like this. We're going to be reanimating quite a bit anyways, so getting maybe 2 copies of this is going to be pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Funny, Benson and I were trying to think of big green creatures to put in decks. We thought Managorger. Yeah, we thought Managorger Hydra. Completely forgot Craterhoof was a card. This shows where I'm at on things. Next is another super fun card. It's a Tali Primal Storm, 4 double red for a legendary creature, Elder Dinosaur 6/6. When a Tali Primal Storm attacks, exile the top card of each player's library. Then you may cast any number of spells from among those cards without paying their mana cost. this card is so much fun. Anytime I play red, I put this in because it is just like so silly. As long as it attacks, it gets the ability, right? Like even only 6 around for 1 turn, like the payoff is so massive.
Next up is Felden of the Third Path, a 2/3 human artificer for 1 and 2 red. You can tap 2 in a red and then tap Felden. To create a token that's a copy of target creature card in your graveyard, except as an artifact in addition to its other types, it gains haste and sacrifice at the beginning of the next end step.
Felden's another very powerful red card that I think a lot of people kind of don't give enough love to. Just a lot of the creatures that we're going to be playing are going to be like very good ETBs, but also this can just like take and push in so much damage because a lot of our creatures are fatties. Like someone gets rid of my Creator of Behemoth, that's fine. I'll just make a token and go again, or maybe another creature and do something else silly. Felden's just solid.
I really like Felden the Third Path as a card.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I truly wish it had partner. I think that would have made it just such a fun like play style of being able to put it in the command zone. Mono red Reanimator is not quite as strong, but it's still good. There's a lot of huge dragons and artifacts, obviously, in red. Well, that function well with red decks. I like the next one you have too. Flare of the Hatebound, 5 and a red for a 4/2 devil with Undying. When it dies, if it had no 1/1 counters on it, enters with a 1/1. When it or another creature enters from your graveyard, they deal damage equal to its power to any target. And if you're reanimating, this is just a no-brainer of, I'm gonna bolt the board with everything I bring back.
Yep, like Dan said, my average CMC in this deck is pretty high. So being able to just play the game as I want and then, hit someone for 5 or 6 or 8 CMC damage in some cases, this is going to start to stack up. Also, it can just remove things that I don't want to see on the battlefield.
Yeah, it's good. It's very good.
Next, we have my favorite kaiju. We have Garuda, Doom of Depths, 4 hybrid, blue, black, for a legendary creature, Demon Kraken, 6/6. It has Companion. We're not really worried about Companion. But it does say when Garuda enters the battlefield, each player puts the top 4 cards of their library into their graveyard. Put a creature card with an even CMC from among those cards onto the battlefield under your control.
That's pretty cool.
So, yeah, whether that hits us or someone else, we're going to get something. Not only are we getting a 6/6 for 6, but also something else, which, once again, like paying 6 for 2 bodies seems very fine.
I love your next card so much. I have a mono blue deck built around it. It's Memnarch, 7 colorless for a legendary artifact creature wizard. It's 1 double blue, target permanent becomes an artifact in addition to its other types. That's permanent. 3 and a blue, gain control of target artifact. Also permanent, and it's a 4/5. I love Memnarch's ability. Kind of gives you a little bit of control. It's a big creature to bring back from the grave. But yeah, I like that. What does Zach like to do? It's steal and reanimate.
I can't, I'm not cloning anything here, so gonna have to take it. Like, absolute worst case, you just pay 4 and get a Soul Ring. Okay. That's fine. Or pay 4 and get another Arcane Signet, which I might desperately need.
Yeah, Memnarch's a great inclusion in this deck, and just a funny card to play. I love Memnarch.
Someone want to take the next one?
Oh, I don't know if I can pronounce that one.
Sepulchral Primordial. 5 double black for a 5/4 avatar with Intimidate. When Sepulchral Primordial enters the battlefield, for each opponent, you may put up to 1 target creature card from that player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. Once again, 7 mana for potentially 3 creatures, if we're just in a 4-player game, is massive. And it has Intimidate, which isn't something to shy away from. Like, it's more than likely going to get to hit someone for free and have bodies on the board. Very solid. The last card in the creature list is also very near and dear to my heart. When I first started playing Reanimator and Legacy, this was a staple at the time, and it was in Graveborn, which is the copy I always put in every deck. It's Sphinx of the Steel Wind. It's 5 white, blue, black for an artifact creature, Sphinx. It's a 6/6. It has flying, first strike, vigilance, lifelink, and it's protection from red and green. So the colors that are going to give artifacts the most problem, it has protection from. And then it's just a massive body with keywords that you want to see on every creature.
It is a good card.
Yeah.
I love Sphinx. Like I said, this was the first card that I ever got to play in a Reanimator deck, and I was just like, this was the meta at the time. Was that and like Iona and Filigree Sovereign? I think Filigree Sovereign. No, not Filigree Sovereign. Filigree Archangel. I think something like that.
I know what you're talking about. Enters, you gain life for the artifacts you control.
Mm-hmm. So that was just the straight creature list. These are the creatures I couldn't figure out where to put in the rest of the list. Now we're going to get straight into reanimation, and of course, just on this section, there's 16 cards because that's what we're doing in this deck. That first one, I'm so pumped to be playing because I love this card. It's Chainer Nightmare Adept. It's 2 black and a red for a 3/2 legendary creature human minion. You can discard a card and you may cast a creature spell from your graveyard this turn. Activate this ability only once each turn, which is super solid. But the next ability is like, just people kind of forget how this works. It's whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, if you didn't cast it from your hand, it gains haste until end of your next turn. So if this is on the battlefield and we reanimate anything in any way, that creature that comes back is going to have haste.
Yep.
From just his passive ability. So once again, he's functioning like a pseudo enchantment in a way. You know, the reanimation already is very cool, but then giving creatures haste. So if I reanimate something with Kenrith and Chainer's out, it's just going to automatically have haste.
Your next one's very high cost, but I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Debtor's Knell 4 and triple hybrid Orzhov, so white, black, white, black, white, black. At the beginning of your upkeep, put target creature card from a graveyard under the battlefield under your control. Not yours.
Mm-hmm. There are some definite high CMC cards, but that's what green is here for. It's going to be hopefully the whole pack mule of getting all these cool things out. And if I have a Debtor's Knell and I just can't use it, maybe I have Chainer, I can discard it and then, you know, cast something else.
I think this next one is my favorite ultimatum.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
It's Eerie Ultimatum, double white, triple black, double green for a sorcery. Return any number of permanent cards with different names from your graveyard to the battlefield. So in Commander, this is just return all permanents from your graveyard to the battlefield.
Really good card, yeah.
Mm-hmm. We're in green. We should be fine.
Yeah. Next up is Hoffrey Ghostforge, a 4/5 dwarf cleric for 3 red and white. Spirits you control get +1/+1 and have trample and haste. And whenever another non-token creature you control dies, exile it. If you do, create a token that's a copy of that creature, except it's a spirit in addition to its other types. And it has, when this creature leaves the battlefield, return the exiled card to your graveyard.
Free reanimation, yeah.
This card's sick. I've been wanting to play it in a deck, and I just haven't found a deck I really want to do. So for this, it just makes perfect sense to me. Getting to get multiple iterations of the same creature out, or multiple uses of the same creature, is just awesome. And it notably, if the token dies, the creature comes back from exile, which is important.
Yeah,
I really like this card.
Love the next card. One of my favorite cards in all of Magic, Karametra, God of Harvests. 3, 1 green, 1 white for a 6/7 legendary enchantment creature god. Indestructible as long as your devotion to green and white is less than 7. Karametra isn't a creature, so she rarely will be a creature in this deck, I believe. Whenever you cast a creature spell, you can search your library for a forest or plains, put on the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. This is a phenomenal card, especially when you're running, like you said, so many multiple land types duels.
Mm-hmm.
Phenomenal ramp that can really, really get you going for all the colors you need fast. I love Karametra.
Yeah, I was very excited because this was another card. I was like, I just love playing this card. So as soon as I saw it, or as soon as I started putting this deck together, this had to go in. Next is one of my favorite Reanimator cards. It's Karmic Guide, 3 double white for a 2/2 Angel Spirit. It's flying, protection from black, and Echo. We're never going to pay the Echo cost. When Karmic Guide ETBs, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It's just good. It's just good.
Yeah, Karmic Guide's like a staple Reanimator card.
Oh yeah, for sure.
This is a cool card.
Yeah. So this is, I guess, pretense. We've been noting all the legendary creatures. There are 2 cards in the deck that specifically care about legendary creatures. This is one of them. It's Loyal Retainers. It's 2 and a white for a creature. It's a human advisor, 1/1. But that doesn't matter. It's sacrifice Loyal Retainer, return target legendary creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate this ability only during your turn before attackers are declared. So in some cases, we're just going to sacrifice this, get one of our nasty legendary creatures to the battlefield before we attack, and maybe we'll have the extra mana from Kenrith to give our creatures trample and haste, or maybe Chainer will be out and they'll just have haste automatically. But this is such a powerful card, and for it being so easy to bring back, whether it be Karmic Guide or Hoffrey or whatever, there are tons of ways to bring this back to constantly just keep reanimating in a cheaper fashion than maybe just spending the outright 5 mana.
I like that card a lot.
Yeah, I've had that copy of Loyal Retainer for a very long time.
Yeah, I really like it. It's beautiful. I love those masterpieces. A lot of people complain about them.
Yeah, I do as well. Someone want to take this next one?
Sure. Next one is Nim Deathmantle. It's an artifact equipment for 2 generic. Equipped creature gets +2/+2, has Intimidate, and is a black zombie. And whenever a non-token creature is put into your graveyard from the battlefield, you may pay 4. If you do, return that card to the battlefield and attach Nim Deathmantle to it, and it's got an equip cost of 4.
This is just another way to reanimate our stuff if we're not quite where we need to be with Kenrith, or maybe we're just kind of missing the mana that we need to be able to do it right. This is going to be 1 mana cheaper than to reanimate off of Kenrith, and also it gets into these kind of interesting loops. And it's just a sweet card. It's another thing that hasn't been reprinted, and it's kind of been climbing in price over the years because of it.
Yeah.
I love that this next card got reprinted.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really good card. Persist, 1 and a black. Return target non-legendary creature from your graveyard to the battlefield with a -1/-1 on it.
Yep. I've noted how many legendary creatures, but there are a bunch of non-legendary creatures as well that we just want to bring back with a 2 mana spell. But maybe 2, we just want to get something small back. Like maybe we want to get back, I don't know, a River Kelpie or something like that, or
your Karmic Guide, and Karmic Guide,
yeah.
Retainers, any of those, being able to bring them back at 2 manas, no joke.
Mm-hmm. Next, we have another reanimation spell on a stick. We have Priest of the Fell Rites. It's a white and a black for a 2/2 human warlock. You can tap and pay 3. You sacrifice Priest of Fell Rites and return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. You can only do this as a sorcery, but it does have Unearth for 3, a white and a black. So it comes back, has haste, and then you have to exile it when it leaves play.
Yeah.
Also, super solid. Then
we have the new artwork for it.
Yep.
That's very nice.
This is... Yeah, Niles did this, and he's super, super talented. It's Reanimate. It's 1 black sorcery per target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. You lose life equal to its mana value. Yeah, I have this artwork. I got Commander Black when it came out. I love this card.
Next up is Rhea Dawnbringer, 4/6 legendary creature angel for 6 and triple white. It's got flying, and at the beginning of your upkeep, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield.
Yeah,
I love Rhea too. Rhea's a very cool angel.
Very simple, very effective.
Yeah, 4/6 flyer, and it's just going to constantly be bringing stuff back at our upkeep. And it's nice too because a lot of our looting effects are instances. So if we have something in hand, or if we are hoping to hit something, before our upkeep, or at the end of our opponent's turn before us, we can just, otherworldly gaze and maybe get something big off of Rhea.
That's a very cool artwork as well. Next.
Yeah.
Is that the movie poster one? Yeah.
Yeah, I was super happy with the secret layer drop. So this is one of the cards I put in yesterday as I was kind of tuning this deck up a little bit. We have Rise of the Dark Realms, 7 double black for sorcery. Put all creature cards from all graveyards on a battlefield under your control. Just good. Just very good. This is another game-ending card.
Mm-hmm.
Someone want to take the next one?
No, Rush Rebirth. Love this card. 1 black, 1. I actually really like your whole list so far, by the way. Keep saying love this card, but Rush Rebirth is 1 black, 1 green. Instant, choose target creature. When it dies this turn, search your library for a creature card with lesser mana value, put on the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. I really like it.
Yeah.
Yep. It's very nice if we have like a big creature that's about to die, or if we have, something just massive that is getting ready to get dealt with, we can just Rush Rebirth it and then get something just a little bit less massive.
Definitely. Next up is Safi Eriksdottir, a green and a white for legendary creature human scout. It's a 2/2. And you can sacrifice Safi Eriksdottir when target creature is put into your graveyard this turn, return that card to the battlefield.
I love Safi. I love her so much. Yeah. When I saw that these got reprinted, I literally went and bought out my entire LGS of Safi Eriksdotters, and I've used all of them.
Yeah.
Card should have a partner with Hans.
Yes. 100% agree.
Unofficial pairing, play it and build it.
I'll
take that.
I've done it. I've done it. It's a blast. And the last card for the reanimation list or reanimation section is Sun Titan. 4 double white for a 6/6 giant with vigilance. And when ETBs or attacks, return target permanent with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Even though, like Dan has mentioned, this is a thick boy list, there are plenty of permanents 3 CMC and less that you're going to want to bring back with Sun Titan more times than not. The value that this card is going to get us is just going to be incremental. So that was it for...
mana curve, you have like almost half your deck is under 3 CMC, 3 or less.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And those cards are going to help us get our big boys out. So that was our reanimation section. Now we're going to go into utility. These cards are going to help us do a bunch of weird things that the other cards aren't necessarily helping us do. So the first one pairs with another card. So we'll talk about both of them kind of simultaneously. We have Biomancer's Familiar. It's a green and a blue for a 2/2 mutant. And activated abilities of creatures you control cost 2 less to activate. This effect can't reduce the amount of mana and ability cost to activate to less than 1. It also has tap ability that is never going to be relevant in this deck, so I'm not going to talk about it. So Biomancer's Familiar is a lot like Zerta the Dawnwaker, which is 1 hybrid red white for a legendary creature, Elemental Fox 3/3. It has companion, doesn't matter. Abilities you activate that aren't mana abilities cost 2 less to activate. This effect can't reduce the mana value less than 1. And then it says 1 tap, target creature can't block this turn. So both of these cards we're wanting to get out to try to make that 5 reanimation ability become like 2.
Well, with both of them out, a 1.
Right, 1, what have you. I'm bad at math.
I love Zerta. Zerta is one of my favorite cards and one of my favorite artworks.
Right, like just off the rip, like it reduces, if both of them are out, almost every one of Kenrith's ability just become 1 colored mana, which is insane. 1 blue to draw a card, 1 white to gain 5 life, 1 green to put +1/+1 counter on target creature, 2 to reanimate. Like, that's insane. And they're fairly easy to find in this deck, with 1 being a legendary creature. We're going to be able to get to that a little bit easier than Biomancer's Familiar. But even still, like, these are going to be fairly easy to bring back, and they're just powerful. I could not play this deck without these. I mean, you could, but why would you? The value is just way too insane. So that's those guys. Did you have something you want to say, Slothy?
No, I was just saying, yeah, that's very, very good paired with Kenrith.
Right. And I'm sure there's some other cards that I'm not even paying attention to that can also take advantage of that. But really, I just was thinking Kenrith. I guess, Emeritus, or however you say it, and an Obsessive Stitcher, and a couple other, Felden. So there are some other targets too. You want to take the next card under Biomancer's Familiar, Salty?
Yeah, absolutely. Next one's Buried Alive. It's 2 and a black for a sorcery. You can search your library for up to 3 target creature cards and then put them into your graveyard and then shuffle your library. Good way to get things in the graveyard.
I love Buried Alive. It's so good. Yeah. Dan, do you want to take this next card? I feel like you like this card a lot.
I do love Captain Sisay a lot. 2, 1 green, 1 white for a 2/2 human soldier, legendary creature. Also, great version of it. Tap, search your library for a legendary card, reveal that card, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. Sisay just fetches so many good things.
Mm-hmm. Mainly we're just getting creature cards with this. Normally it would be how I get my Urborg.
I was going to say fetch Urborg because you're trying to reanimate so many things.
Mm-hmm. Spoiler alert, I do have a Proxia Gaia's Cradle in this deck, so Sisay can hit that too, which can also help us get to absurd amounts of mana. But yeah, mainly it's going to be getting our big creatures, so maybe we can throw them into the grave with a looting effect, or we can just outright cast them. To help with that, we have Corpse Connoisseur, 4 and a black for a zombie wizard 3/3. When it ETBs, you can search your library for a creature card, put it into a graveyard, then shuffle. Then it has on Earth for 3 and a black, so you can do it again.
Really good card with a really good ETB.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with such like a toolbox card right there. Oh, yeah. You want me to read your upside down card?
Yes, I do.
I won't be a part of it.
So, you guys know I'm a huge fan of Secret Layers, and on Architect, I put in the Mind Flare because from the Stranger Things Secret Layer, because I think it's very strong in this deck, but also it's upside down, so I have to literally go through my cards so I can read it correctly.
Mind Flayer the Shadow isn't a creature unless you control 3 or more permanents you don't own. Also, it's kind of like one of the gods, like a devotion thing. At the beginning of your end step, exile the bottom card of each opponent's library face down. For as long as that card remains exiled, you may... Sorry, I'm reading this upside down. You may look at them. You may cast permanents. You may cast permanent spells from among them. You may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast those spells. We got there.
And it's a 9/9.
It being upside down in the list is funny.
Yeah, in Architect it's upside down. I'm assuming that's just, because it's in the upside down.
Good old flavor, yeah.
But yeah, this card, when I saw it spoiled, I was going to put it in my Esper Reanimator deck of Urtai, but it actually got here first for this deck because I think it's just a little bit funnier. But yeah, it just does everything we want to. It's a legendary creature, so we can search for it fairly easy, reanimate it fairly easy. It's a 9/9, which means it's massive. And we're getting to steal stuff from our opponents, so it's just super good. Slothy, you want to take this next one?
Yeah. The next one is Razakath the Foul-Blooded, an 8/8 legendary creature demon for 5 and triple black. It's got flying and trample, and you can pay 2 life to sacrifice another creature and search your library for a card and put that card in your hand, then shuffle your library.
So notably, I don't have a lot of sack outlets in this deck. Typically I would, but I was worried about getting into loops that were just a little unfun, like just constantly looping, like Dockside Extortionist. So this is one of the only sacrifice outlets in this deck. And mainly it would just be to sacrifice a creature to reanimate the creature and go get something else. Like the search ability is kind of like, it's cool, but it's mainly so I can sacrifice a creature with a creature that has a big body and good stats. And also secret layer art. This secret layer is also super pretty. I almost put all the demons and Liliana's contract in here because of how much I like the art.
Demon Callie is so good.
Dude, it's great. So next we have Swiftfoot Boots, just a staple. People are going to see one of our creatures that is mean and they're going to want to kill it. This is going to hopefully protect it from getting killed. So 2 equipment, equip creature has hexproof and haste, equip for 1.
Then you have Unmarked Grave. Search your library for a non-legendary creature card. Put that card in your graveyard, then shuffle at 1 in a green.
One in a black.
Yeah, the other green.
Yes. This should be an Entomb, but honestly, I ran out of Entombs and I didn't want to take them for my other decks, so I had Unmarked Grave sitting around. Both are good.
I'm shocked you didn't run a Muldrotha with how many good things you can just play from your graveyard with this deck.
I only had 1, and I didn't want to take it from my other decks. I'm very selfish. Like, it had to stay in the deck that it was in.
So far, I love the list.
Thank you. So now we have my interaction section, and that's the last thing before lands. We will talk about lands because there's some things I want to point out, but we'll get into interaction. And the top card on the list, I think, is one of my most favorite cards that has been recently printed. It's Archon of Cruelty. It's 6 double black for a 6/6 Archon with flying. When it ETBs or attacks, target opponent sacks a creature or planeswalker, discards a card and loses 3 life, and then you draw a card and gain 3 life. This is basically just a Titan, but not a Titan. It's an Archon. It's super powerful. This reanimating already gives us value. So as soon as you either cast it or bring it back, it's already given us more value than what some of our other creatures will. But then on attack, it does the same thing. Super good. Someone take the next one.
You have Ashen Rider. 4 double white, double black, 5/5 Archon. When it enters or dies, exile target permanent. That's very strong.
Yeah. If you're going to kill it, you're going to earn it. It's going to be a glorious stuff. Sloth, you want to take the last Archon here?
Yeah, the next one is Blazing Archon, a 5/6 Archon for 6 and triple white. It's got flying and creatures can't attack you.
This could probably be anything else, but once again, this was in the Graveborn specialty set, and I have my Graveborn one in here, so I had to play it.
I love Blazing Archon. It's a very cool card.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Next, we have Hallbreaker Horror. It's 5 double blue for a 7/8 Kraken with flash. It can't be countered, and whenever you cast a spell, you choose up to 1. Return target spell you don't control to its owner's hand, or return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. This can actually be used to help us to reset ETBs. So maybe we get into some strange, like, incremental value war with Dockside Extortionist, or maybe we want to, like, do something silly with one of our other creatures. Like, this is just a very solid card. Or maybe we just want to remove someone's Grafdigger's Cage or something that's bothering us.
Hullbreaker Horror is really good. That's such a good card.
And it's a 7/8. Like, that's very big.
It does some real work.
Mm-hmm.
You have your Nature's Claim next. 1 green, destroy target artifact or enchantment. Its controller gains 4 life. Great instant.
I don't care about 4 life, whatever.
Yeah, 4 life's nothing.
Mm-hmm. Next we have Negate. It's 1 blue for an instant, and it's counter target non-creature spell. I don't care about people casting creatures because chances are I'm going to steal them, or I'm going to kill them and then steal them, or something silly. So, whatever. Like, just don't cast things I don't like. Sloth, you want to take the next one?
Absolutely. Next one is Swords to Plowshares. 1 white for an instant. Exile target creature. Its controller gains life equal to the power.
This can be us. Oh, go ahead.
I do like that you have this one over Path to Exile.
Mm-hmm. I like this because in a pinch, we can just exile one of our things. Like, that's perfectly fine. I can gain the life. We have so many fatties. Like, just gaining life is okay. I mean, there's something to be said about maybe Craterhoof Behemoth attacking, hurting someone, and then exiling something and gaining, like, I don't know, 20 life.
Yeah.
I'll take that trade. And finally, for interaction, we just have Wrath of God. 2 double white, destroy all creatures. That's fine.
Yep.
So that's the majority of the list. There are some lands we're just going to touch on. We have an Ancient Tomb. Typically, I don't run this, especially in 5 colors, but with how many big creatures we have, and I got it for free, like, it just seems silly not to play to be able to get to our stuff a little bit quicker. Worst case, this is just going to help us get Kenrith out sooner and let us reanimate sooner with Kenrith's ability.
Well, Ancient Tomb and a white nets you 2 life or 3 life every time you use it.
Mm-hmm. That's true too.
Yeah, it's Ancient Tomb's dope.
Then we do have Command Tower, just to once again help us get all of our colors on theme that are needed. We're running all the fetches and all the duels. Gaia's Cradle is also really nice because you can search for it off of Sisay. And just having the mana, like, because we have a lot of, like, colorless mana going on in here, being able to just use the colorless mana or the green for our colors cost is going to be super helpful because then we're just, like, worried about specific colors. So if this is on the battlefield, it's kind of fixing our mana in a roundabout way. Or just this and a couple creatures, we can maybe reanimate for 2 instead of, like, 5.
Well, you just need a lot of mana when you're pumped. The pro of Kenrith is such a toolbox ability. The con of Kenrith is such a toolbox ability. You have so many things you can do to answer things that you need that mana available.
Mm-hmm. So you could argue that I could add a couple more utility lands in here. I just didn't want to be too greedy because, like, Blood Moon will hurt, and I don't want to get away from too many of my non-basics. I'm already running a finite amount of non-basics, so I really just didn't want to get away from that. But yeah, so that's my that's my Kenrith Reanimator list. What do you guys think? Oh,
yeah. No, I really, really like your list. I think that it's super cool. Is this the first 5-color deck you've built in, like, a long time, or what?
Yeah, so the last 5-color deck I had built was, I believe, Morphron.
Your 5-color colorless?
Yes, that was my Devoid deck, which I never really got to do much with. But yeah, so this is the first one in a while. I'm really excited because, like, there are just so many things that you can do with this, and there's so many iterations. There's so many little things I can tweak, I think, to make this like a more, not streamlined, but more consistent, I feel like. But just getting to play all my favorite creatures in a way that I like is very exciting. Is there any glaring things that you would add that I didn't add?
All of the Praetors. Every one of them.
I figured you would say
every
that.
Single one of them. Every version of them, it wouldn't even matter. Kenrith makes it so that you can you can put one of the counters on things. Vorinclex collects doubling it, but I would be doubling my mana with it. I would be reanimating a Jin-Gitaxias. No one gets their hand. Make them kiss Kenrith's ring to get their creatures back from the graveyard, because you can give them their creatures back. Zach is a generous god with Kenrith.
You're such a bully. Oh my god.
Oh yeah, no, I would have definitely been running just all Praetors like Sheoldred. I would definitely put Sheoldred in the list. But no, like I like your, it's not a salty Reanimator deck, right? Like, it's got lots of cool cards. It has the ability to bring back lots of big things on the cheap, but you're not like you're not being an animal with it.
Right.
Like I would be.
I think this is a very Timmy like Reanimator list, which is kind of like what I like about Reanimator. Typically, like, I just love playing out in the graveyard, and these are all of like my favorite creatures in these colors. Honestly, like every single color that I'm playing, I was like, oh man, I have to add this creature in because I really like it. I have to add this creature in. So like if you look at you can definitely see my Abzan deck in here for sure. But then it's like, oh, these are my like favorite Rakdos creatures or my favorite black creatures. Shieldred I was gonna put in here because I still have a pack foil Shieldred, but that's in my Torok deck, and I love that deck so much. I can't touch it.
My only other inclusions, I would have put a Rings of Brighthearth because being able to reanimate twice at 7 instead of 10 is really solid, and I would have used Will to double up the activated abilities. Is it Will or Rowan? Rowan.
I think it's Rowan.
Yeah. Rowan's the activated abilities one. But other than that, like I said, I really like the way you went with it. It seems like it'd be a very fun list to play.
Yeah, even just from like, because I haven't got a chance to play test it yet, but every like sample hand that I've done has just been like, it's so silly. I'm surprised I haven't ran into an issue with not having colors that I need. Kenrith really being like a one color commander, and the activate ability being one color really does make it very easy to like do what the deck wants to do.
Yeah, it's not like you're trying to assemble Wooburg with the new Goshinte or something.
Right.
Where you need that specific one. What did you think of the list, Slothy?
I really liked it. One thing that I would have added is something like an Ashnod's Altar, just an additional sack outlet. But you did mention that you didn't want to be too much like Dan would have been with this one.
I would have been a bad person. Let me tell you, I got some fun Kenrith decks. This would not have been one of them.
I'm very close to Revelark and Friends in this deck. Like, I'm very close, and I wanted to make sure I left out a piece of that puzzle, so I'm only using it for good.
I don't know. It would be, yeah, like I said, I love Kenrith. I really, really like Kenrith as a group hug commander and the ability to make everyone get their cards up. But that is, like I told you earlier on in the episode, one of my decks, my last Kenrith one I built, is the Will of the Council. Yeah, Ginger Taxes is absolutely in that deck, because I like to let people vote on if I'm bringing their creatures back after I make them discard their hand. The whole thing is about me making people vote on things, and just, it's a really fun deck. But
yeah, I should also mention too, like I built this deck before, like very, very early before the new set was released. So I haven't actually got my hands on anything from the new set to really see if there's anything I want to slide in and take out. So this is Neon Dynasty, which I think there's a few cards from Neon Dynasty I want to put in here, but until I get there, like this is pre. So like if you guys follow me on Archidec, which you should be able to do because we always post like the Archidec list.
Yeah, the links in the show always.
I always go through and update my list when new things come out. So if there's a deck that I've done in the past that you guys like from the show, or if you just want to see what I'm brewing, you can always go in there and find my stuff and see kind of what I'm doing. And you can always leave comments to say how bad of a deck builder I am, or like the glaring things that I completely forgot, or that for some reason you like what I'm doing. Either way is fine. Something else to note too, I mentioned it a lot in this episode, there are like a ton of proxies. Please do not, if there's a deck that you like, please do not let yourself like not play it because you don't have the money to buy a Gaia's Cradle. Like with so many people like Atomic Ashes being around to be able to get these cards and be able to play these cards that you want to play, do not let your wallet stop you from like playing a deck that you absolutely like would fall in love with. Or if you want to try something out and you're afraid to because you don't want to do the investment of buying all the dual lands, like $20 to get like all the dual lands seems super reasonable.
We were playing last night and we were talking about that right at the end of the night, and look, that is just the argument that like the game store is losing out. Zach's not going to spend $10,000 on dual lands. The game store is losing nothing because he's not buying it. Most people are not going to buy it, and even if you have, like, again, if you have the money and stuff, we're playing a not competitive format. There's no prize for winning. It's the, like, you're just like the coolest guy in your friends group if you won the game. Like, there's no prizing. So, like I said, spending $10,000 to play a deck is just kind of silly.
Look, and honestly, like, with how my LGS is, like, for anyone who doesn't know, I want to go on a little bit of soapbox for a second. My local game store that I go to is No Limit Gaming. It's in Kettering, Ohio. I love those guys. All those guys are my good friends. I'm there almost every day when I don't have my son because like I like hanging out there. I always spend money there. I'm always trading. I'm always playing in tournaments. Like,
well,
that's
what I was
never
going to
feel
say.
bad about it.
That's what I was going to say. Like you said, because you're building things now, right? And yeah, sure, you may not have. If you had to put this in with real dollars, you're not going to build this deck. But
no,
you probably spent a few $100s buying the cards to build the rest of this deck, right?
Yeah, over the years, because like I was telling Salty before you got on, like almost all this stuff I had already from previous decks. So like, and guess where I got that stuff from No Limit Gaming.
It didn't just show up in the mailbox for free.
No, typically no. Yeah, so like I understand like people being like like feeling some kind of way about proxies, but like don't make it an arms race. Like just talk with your play group, honestly.
Yeah, like you said, proxying cards and proxying cards to stomp the table are two very separate issues.
Mm-hmm. Me having dual lands literally lets me play my deck. I could take out the Rhystic Study. I could take out the Smothering Tithe, and this deck would still be fine. Like outside of that, I don't think I really have anything. And the Dock Side, like I could take those out, and this deck would still function fine.
And alternatively, you could have, instead of using your ramp package, you could have like gone with like a Mana Crypt, a Mana Vault, a Mox Mox Diamond, Chrome Mox, and like that. Regardless of if you own the cards or not, that'd be a much more annoying deck to play against. If you're sitting there dropping turn 1 Kenriths on people, like, you know, it's the value of the actual cards isn't, it's what you're doing with it, right? Like, again, what I would be doing, it doesn't matter that I own the Jinja Taxes. You would be annoyed that it's Jinja Taxes. It doesn't matter like what version of it is. Like, if I had like a proxy of it or the real version, you're not going to be like, well, like, it is $15, so I guess I don't mind losing my hand now. No, if you're being annoying, you're being annoying, right? And I like I said, I think that this list is balanced and fun. I think that the duels being accessible to make people play 5 colors is fun. It's not fun to just play 5 colors alone all the time.
Yeah, like this, I am so.
I think it's a super cool list. I really, really like that you have your alternate win con in it with Attempsis.
Yeah, that's silly. Yeah, the whole point is just to showcase like how you, I guess, to proxy responsibly, I guess is the best way to put it. Like, if someone's at the table playing, just because you see like a proxy card, don't jump on them. Like, just, that's not the way to be. If you have an issue with proxies, really think about it. But personally, like, bring me your proxies. I love them. I
really do think that it's the difference of like people that are just so used to someone over arms racing the table with them.
Mm-hmm. And we're getting off on a tangent, so we'll wrap this up. But every one of the what I'm gonna do kind of special for this is, for this episode, I'll send Dan pictures and we'll post it. But you can see all the proxies that I actually got from Atomic Ashes. It's a wide range and it's very cool. Like I have some of my One Piece proxies in here I got from him a while ago. I have some of the new lands that he made, and a couple other things in between. Some silly stuff with SpongeBob and Patrick from the Smothering Tithe Rhystic Study stuff. So it's a wide range. So I really want to, say thanks again, Atomic Ashes, for like giving us some stuff so I could build a deck that I wouldn't have built otherwise, because I didn't have the means to do so. So thanks, and thank you guys for listening. Should we roll credits?
Yeah, no, again, really cool list. Make sure you check it out in the notes, and Zach, let them know where they can find our stuff.
Yeah, so if you like what we're doing, you can find us at instant99.com. It's your one-stop shop for everything Instant 99, whether that be articles, YouTube videos, or to get to our Patreon. We're they're talking about new cards, getting games, and just deck ideas in general. You can find Lotus doing Brunette Live once a month, I believe, on Saturdays. And once again, if you want to get some proxies from Atomic Ashes, go to bizproxyshop.com, use our promo code IT99 to get 10% off your order. That's all I got for you guys. Oh, and Spotify. Make sure you go check us out on Spotify and rate and review our episodes. The more you guys give us back to us, the more we'll be seen elsewhere.
Yeah. Thanks so much for tuning in.
See you guys.